All right, fellow political wanderers, I'm Dave, and this is Dave TV. Welcome to the channel. George W. Bush aides back Joe Biden. You know the presidential campaign is getting ugly. This from antiwar.com, a website that scares both the left and the right. The 2020 election campaign is likely to get much uglier before November 3rd. Both parties face internal wars that will shape future U.S. foreign policy. By the way, with Corona and racial tensions going absolutely crazy these days, there's not a lot of thought given to foreign policy, which means the people behind the scenes, we'll call them that. Some people refer to them as the deep state. It doesn't really matter what you call them. They're people behind the curtain pulling the strings. In Democratic primaries, younger progressive candidates continue to challenge establishment paladins, and leading members of the bipartisan war party continue to fall. Now, again, as much as I've kind of eschewed the progressive ideas of violence and sort of blowing stuff up, I am still right there with progressive candidates if they are truly anti-war and they want to challenge establishment Democrats. Establishment Democrats are far more dangerous in terms of their stance on going to war, because they're going to agree with all of these deep state insiders as to what to do when it comes to foreign policy. They're basically going to give these insiders a blank check to do whatever they want to do, so long as they can talk identity politics and throw wedges at the country where people will be fighting about things that really aren't going to directly affect their lives. So anyway, the latest Bigfoot loss appears to be Eliot Engel, chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Out will go a reliable hawk and Israel ally, replaced by a younger member critical of endless war and lawmaking for foreign interests. Yay. See, this is the great convergence. If a politician or a party could tap into this, populist left, populist right. This is why Trump got elected, because Trump said, you know what, I'm tired of war. By the way, Donald Trump is the most anti-war candidate running for president. Well, Joe Jorgensen and Howie Hawkins, sure, they're both anti-war. But I'm talking about a candidate with an actual chance of winning the election. I may change my mind if something develops that would allow Jorgensen or Hawkins to be closer to the nomination. I think Howie Hawkins is a non-starter. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the Green Party. I've been hearing now by the day, and I'm not trying to, throw cold water if you are someone who's going to vote Green, but it's a bleep show, okay? It's a complete bleep show. Not only that, there's talk now of Jesse Ventura still possibly trying to run in the Green Party, which, again, I don't understand how that would work. Anyway, Engel's loss also could result in a committee leader more skeptical of reflexive intervention. Reflexive intervention, that's a great term. Unfortunately, no such ferment is happening with the more reliably hawkish GOP Congressional Congress, other than a few outliers such as Senator Rand Paul. Republicans are just avowed interventionalists, but genuine warmongers. For instance, in 2017, Lindsey Graham lightheartedly dismissed the possibility of nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula as being over there rather than over here. Okay. However, insufficient enthusiasm for war might cost President Donald Trump some traditional GOP support. Although right now, domestic safety and security will drive voters out to vote for candidates who vow to protect the citizenry. So we've got competing narratives here. As much as I'm anti-war, I'm also anti-war here at home. So in this case, if a war breaks out here at home, which there are skirmishes in large cities, unfortunately, this is a time where I would say, yes, we need safety and we need security and we need to dispatch, I don't want to say military, but we need to dispatch our domestic army, per se, to make sure that citizens remain safe. Because government is supposed to protect the citizenry. And we're always talking about wars in different parts of the world, and it's argued all the time, well, they're over there, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's a volunteer force, and it's over there, and all it is, mostly, is propping up the stock market, these large corporations that are investing in all this military hardware, and that, in turn, can be used by presidential candidates. In this case, it would be Trump. He could say, hey, the economy is really bouncing back, and I'm going to use the war machine to prop that up. And that's exactly what happens. So in any event, Trump is still more anti-war. He's still, he definitely, his instincts are anti-war until we rid ourselves of this basically underground and hard to, these shadowy figures who are reliably trying to invade other countries and are trying to convince politicians, especially the President of the United States, that this is the only course of action we can take. Until we diffuse that and we get support from both the left and the right, I would say progressive lefties, libertarian righties, populist righties, and populist lefties. Those are the people, and basically it's a coalition of people where some of us are starting to realize it's us against them, and we need to drop the labels. We may differ on some things, but we've got to agree on some big ticket items, and this would be one of them. So a super PAC, a new super PAC, 43 alumni for Biden, is set to launch. Incredible. So these neoconservatives, and this shows you where Biden is on the political spectrum. For those of you on the hard left who are sheep-herding people into the Biden camp thinking, oh, you're going to get a real hardcore progressive domestic agenda. Well, no. And furthermore, you're going to get a neoliberal or neoconservative, a hyper-neoconservative foreign policy. And if you've got the alumni here of George W. Bush wanting to vote for Joe Biden, and there are going to be a lot of these sort of never-Trumpers and, I don't know, these make-believe liberals who are now completely bought in to this idea of endless war, because what does it do? I don't know. Helps the economy, allows us to talk about how tough we are. And, apparently there are some people on the right who are very content with a Joe Biden presidency, because that means we continue to fight these endless wars, and it's not mean Trump in the White House anymore. Biden, who can barely string together a sentence, and he's going to become the president. Okay, I mean, I don't get it. It's a weird coalition of people. Meanwhile, again, the true progressive left and the true libertarian right or populist right is completely shut out of these policy initiatives. The former president probably won't be involved. The New York Times reported that Bush won't vote for Trump, and Brother Jeb is undecided. Yeah, they're not voting for Trump. However, the former president's aides said he hadn't said anything on the issue that would be consistent with his silence during the Obama years. However, Bush's former appointees aren't holding back. Jennifer Milliken, a Bush apparatchik, at the General Services Administration said of Trump, "The president is a danger." Dozens of Republican former national security officials are set to back Biden. So any of you sheep-herding progressive people saying that you're going to go in, okay, you're going to go into the Biden administration like Trojan horses. You got AOC supposedly advising Joe Biden. AOC, okay, supposed progressive firebrand. She's just a celebrity politician at this stage, and she's advising Joe Biden. And Biden is going to get the support of dozens of Republican former national security officials. I mean, that's got to put like the fear of God into people that want less war and are thinking that, hey, we're making progress. Trump is trying to pull troops out. He's actually doing a much better job than any president we've seen in the last 20 years on this issue, including Obama. And yet we're going to go back. See, this is the Joe Biden model is, let's go back to the way things were. 8 years under Obama, increased involvement in countries that are sovereign. We are constantly trying to tell people how to run their affairs. We're taking away their ability, for self-determination. It's just crazy. So dozens of Republican former national officials are claiming that Trump is a threat to U.S. security, which means Trump wants to slow down the war machine, and we can't have that. Just crazy. This is absolutely crazy talk. So you got to be careful. Everybody who just says Orange Man bad, well, Orange Man may be bad in some ways, okay? I'm not saying he's not bad in some ways, but in this area, this has been the one place where Trump has tried pretty much from day one to push back against these neoliberals and neoconservatives. And yeah, he played footsie with them. He cozied up to them thinking that maybe, I can get some advice and then make a decision based on their advice. But Trump recently said of John Bolton that he just wanted to bomb people. Okay, so he had to say goodbye to John. He didn't like a lot of the advice he got from Bolton. And, hence that's why Bolton doesn't work for Trump. Now, everybody would say, well, why did he hire him in the first place? Trump operates in kind of a strange way when it comes to bringing people in. Remember when he had Mitt Romney show up at Trump Tower before Trump took office, and speculation was that maybe Mitt would be, Secretary of State. He'd give him a position, and then Mitt left there with nothing, and it was almost like he trolled Romney and had him out there thinking something, and then it didn't occur. This is why Romney, to this day, Romney is the worst of everything, because he's neoconservative. He's now leaning to be more of a neoliberal, maybe. He tries to be all moral and righteous and so forth, but he doesn't take a stand on anything. And it's not like he's a compromiser. He just falls in line with like Washington and the way Washington wants things. And most Americans don't want what Washington wants anymore, either on the left or the right. We need, if you're going to run for office, be a populist progressive or be a populist conservative even. I want to hear about how regular citizens are going to be affected and helped by these policies. In the case of the Biden campaign, it is George W. Bush. So if you're going to vote for Joe Biden, you're going to get the foreign policy of George W. Bush. And by the way, this is a great way to distract from all of these domestic problems we have. Start a war with somebody. Say they're an imminent threat. Say they have weapons that we have to find. People have short memories. Most of the general public doesn't remember anymore the so-called lack of weapons of mass destruction that we were unable to find. We weren't able to find those weapons, and nobody cares. Some people say, hey, it was a good idea that we went. John Bolton thought it was a great idea that we spent trillions of dollars, and people in our country and in other countries suffered greatly, and people, many of them, lost their lives, but yet it's a good thing. Folks, these are central planners that are basically globalists that are trying to remake the world in their image. They're smarter, they know better, and they're trying to pump up the stock market, which, I don't always agree with Crystal Ball over on the Hill, but she was right when she said recently that the stock market is no measure of what's happening, in the regular economy. It's not a measure. It's a false metric. And all this does is build up the stock market for all of these weapons manufacturers, defense contractors. That's all it is. So I guess if you're for defense contractors, you'll vote for Joe Biden. If you're neoliberal, you're going to vote for Joe Biden because he's not Donald Trump. If you're in the media, Joe Biden, it's all Joe Biden. And again, he can barely string a sentence together, but that's the best we can do. And look, this is a great opening for third-party candidates. But what I'm noticing is that a good chunk of America actually is okay with Joe Biden being the president. The people, he's putting together a coalition, and that's how you win a presidential election. He's got neoliberals, he's got neoconservatives. Game, set, match. The rest of us, do we have a say? And then he's got all those people with Trump derangement syndrome, right? People all across, even in the progressive realm, people that are shouting about Donald Trump being this and that and the other, and yet you're going to get a far greater danger to the country if you elect Joe Biden as your president. But we are rapidly heading in that direction unless things drastically change. And Trump, with all of his braggadocio and even the Trump rallies and going to Mount Rushmore, patriotism, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, by the way, but I don't know if it's enough. It's not enough to overcome all of these things that are occurring simultaneously, both on the world stage and on just the domestic stage. So anyway, I found this story to be quite interesting. This is, of course, from antiwar.com, a website that I've always subscribed to. Sometimes you get libertarians on here. Sometimes you get hard left progressives who are anti-war, who put up a really good argument. You get different perspectives. In the end, fighting endlessly only hurts the United States. For the short-term gain of better, a better stock market and a perceived better economy, that perception is not shared by many Americans who live in a completely different reality. So for you neo-conservative Republicans who are now supporting Joe Biden, that could be the tipping point to get Biden into the White House. What the Biden campaign really has to work on is keeping Joe Biden secluded and away from television cameras and microphones. Because if you want to win, I know you did that with Hillary Clinton, but see, people like Joe Biden more than they like Hillary Clinton, and I think that is one of the reasons why Biden has a really good chance at winning. But if he starts to open his mouth too much, he's toast. And Trump is going to win. And then I understand Kanye is out there. We can talk about Kanye if his campaign actually develops. I am not a person to dismiss Kanye West because people are desperately looking for someone to step into this void. The problem for Kanye West is ballot access and what's his platform going to be. I will cover that once I find out about it. Until then, thank you for watching and subscribing. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because I don't think I've picked up a new subscriber in like 3 months. So it would be helpful to the channel. And keep watching the videos. Pass them along. Tell your friends. I think I have kind of a unique perspective. Sometimes I have trouble with words. So I am a bit like George W. Bush. In any event, thanks for watching and stay safe. See you soon.